The state of California was named after a mythical island where a powerful black proto-lesbian queen ruled over a nation of warrior women who fed their pet griffins on a diet of men. Let's talk about Queen Calafia and the island of California. Welcome back to Yesterqueers. My name's Amanda, and I'm a public historian of queer history. In 1492, this asshole was in Medina del Campo, begging Queen Isabella to fund his voyage to the New World. But elsewhere in the city, a military veteran and city councilor named Garcia Rodriguez de Montalvo was writing what would become one of the most widely read secular book series of the next century. The four-part Amadís de Gaula and the spin-off about Amadís' son, Las Serges de Esplandian. The Adventures of Esplandian is a retelling of the Battle of Constantinople. In the real world, the Ottoman army captured Constantinople, the capital of the Byzantine Empire, in 1453. This was a massive, world-shaking battle that dealt a huge blow to Christian hegemony across Europe because the Ottoman Empire was Muslim. You can imagine why a fictional version of the battle in which the Christians triumph over the pagans and the Moors would be popular. The proto-lesbian nation of California appears in chapter 157 of the book. De Montalvo writes, "Due east of the Indies there is an island called California, very near to the locale called the Terrestrial Paradise. It was populated by black women, with no men among them, for they lived in the fashion of the Amazons. They possessed strong and firm bodies of ardent courage and great strength." Queen Calafia is described as a mighty and beautiful queen, more ambitious, daring, and courageous than any of the rulers who had previously occupied the throne. I'm borrowing the term proto-lesbian from Lillian Faderman to describe Calafia and the Californians because lesbian as an identity did not exist at the time, and it's unlikely that de Montalvo spent any time thinking about his characters' romantic or sexual habits outside of noting that they kept a few men around for procreative purposes. Reading the story in 2025, we can fill in those gaps with our imagination. De Montalvo goes on to say that California was the strongest island in all the world, that they had a massive naval fleet that they used to raid other nations, and that all the women were covered in gold, as were their beasts, because it was the only metal available on the island. Those beasts were griffins, raised by hand from babies. The island women fed them with men they had taken as prisoners, and with male children to whom they had given birth. Every man who landed on the shores of the island was immediately devoured by these creatures. He goes on to explain that if the griffins weren't hungry, they would simply pick the men up and drop them on the rocky shores from a great height. Queen Calafia, 2,000 Californian warriors, 500 griffins, and a pack of the unnamed one-eyed beasts that they rode into battle sailed to Constantinople to save the pagan forces who were struggling to take the city. Everything was going great, and the queen's forces were turning the tide of battle, until the Sultan's armies came out of hiding while the griffins were still in the air. The griffins started eating the pagan armies and managed to do quite a bit of damage before Queen Calafia recalled them to the ships. Whoops. Eventually, Queen Calafia and one of the sultans agree to end the siege by facing King Amadís and his son Esplandian in one-on-one battle. Of course, given the genre, they lose, and the Christians are triumphant. Queen Calafia and her sister Leota are married off to distinguished knights, and all of the Californians convert to Christianity before sailing back to their island with a Christian fleet in tow. The author leaves it to us to imagine what happened once all of those ships full of men arrived on the shores of California. Chivalric novels were hugely popular across early modern Europe. These books blended history, lore, and pure fiction into page-turners that contained epic battles, sweeping romance, feats of heroism, naughty humor, all set in exotic locations full of fantastic beasts and unusual people. Conquistadors in particular were big fans of this genre because the stories fueled their fantasies about sailing to the New World and finding wealthy islands full of beautiful Amazons just waiting for them. So when this asshole first set foot on the coast of what we now know as Baja California in 1535, he thought he had found the mythical island of California. Cortez was proven wrong because the land that he stumbled onto wasn't an island, much less one full of gold, warrior women, and man-eating griffins, but the name stuck. That's it for today. As always, more information, including sources and further reading, is available in the usual place.